Okay, so let's start. We are on chapter 13. We're towards the end of the chapter. We're on page Yud Tes by the colon. So essentially what we discussed now in chapter 13 is that we have really two extremes going on. We have, do you have a watch? Right? That you have on the one hand, you have, perfect, thank you. Okay, so on the one hand, we have the Beinoni never allows any negative thought, speech, or action to express itself in the body. Having said that, on the other hand, the essence of the Nefesh Bahamis is as strong as it was from the time it was born. So you have these two opposite things going on at the same time in the person. Now we're going to see that in terms of his avodas Hashem and his ava, also we have a similar type of situation. On the one hand, during the times of davening, you have this tremendous love that he's able to build up within himself, right? However, after davening goes away, the love also goes away. And so therefore, he has these two different energies going on. Now, what the Alter Rebbe is going to do is he's going to start discussing the concept of the midah of emes. Emes means truth, right? And emes, the way the Alter Rebbe explains it, is something that lasts forever. So really what we're going to say is that in comparison to the tzaddik, the Beinoni is definitely lacking something, right? But can we say that just because when we're comparing it to the tzaddik, whose love is always there forever, then the Beinoni's love is really not a true love, or really not a true avoda? Or are we going to look at it from a different perspective? That's what we're going to discuss today. Okay, so we are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 lines down from the top of page Yud Tes. V'hine midas ha'ava zu. This midah of ava, this midah of love, ha'amur b'beinonim, which is discussed in the Beinoni, b'shas ha'tefillah, during the times of davening, al yidei his gavrus ha'nefesh alokis chulu. So how does it happen? It happens through the winning out of the nefesh alokis. Hine legabe madreges hatzadikim oivdei Hashem be'emes la'amiso. In comparison to the tzadikim, who are serving Hashem in a way of emes la'amiso, the absolute truth, ein bechinas avazu nikra b'shem avodas emes klal. So we cannot say that the avoda of the Beinoni is really an avoda of emes, of truth at all. Since anyway it's going to go away after the davening. So what are we saying here? We're saying that by the Beinoni in davening, what we have to say is that the ava is goiver. It wins out over. In other words, the nefesh of Lakis wins out over the nefesh of Bahamias. But after the davening, as we just said, the energy starts to dissipate, starts to go away, and so therefore you can't say it's an emes. You can't say that it's there forever. Contrast that to the tzaddik. The tzaddik, his love for Hashem is constant. He doesn't need to be goiver. He doesn't need to win out. The nefesh elokis doesn't need to win out over anything. There's nothing for it to win out over. It's just there. So by the tzaddik, you have to say that, here is a real avoda. This is the avoda of emes. This is a avoda that's forever. It's always going to be that way. So when you compare the Beinoni's avoda to the tzaddik's avoda, you cannot say that the Beinoni's avoda is an emistic avoda. It's just not it. Because it's not really part and parcel of him. That's the difference. When you look at the tzaddik, the tzaddik's avoda is that his nefesh alokis is constantly flying in him. It's constantly in an overdrive motion. That's where it is in him, right? By the Beinoni, it's not like that. Because it's not like that, that's why you cannot say it's emes. Right? That's just the way it is. Yes, for certain periods of time, he's able to be goiver on himself. He's able to win out over himself to be able to get into that state of being. But generally speaking, that's not where he is. That's not how you could say it. And therefore, we're not going to call it emes. Right? So he says, Viksiv sfas emes tikon la'ad. So he says like this, that sfas emes, right? The, so to speak, the lips or the edges of truth, tichon la'ad, will, so to speak, last forever. Ve'ad argia lashon sheker, va'af al pi kain, legabe medrigas habeinoni kras avodas tama be'emes le'miso shalahem. Okay, so what are you saying like this? On the one hand, it's not really emes, because as we just described, in comparison to the tzaddik, it doesn't go away. But can we only say that emes is really the most essential way of explaining emes is that it lasts forever? But can we say that his avoda is not emes? The answer that Alter Rebbe is saying is that yes and no. In comparison to the tzaddik, his avoda, his service of Hashem, is not emes, because it goes away. It doesn't last forever. But on the other hand, in comparison to the Beinoni himself, is he giving it his all? Everything that he has? The answer is yes. He is giving it his all. So if he's giving it his all at that moment, can you really say about it that it's not an avoda of emes? No, you can't say that. You have to say that it is avoda of emes for him at this moment. That's what it is. And that's how we're now shifting gears. On the one hand, yes, it's true. It's not the same as the avoda of the tzaddik. But on the other hand, for the Beinoni who's infusing his whole life into his avoda, giving everything that he has into it, so then how could you not say that that's emes? That is emes. And that's what he says here. Take a look again. Let's look at the words again. Afal pikein legabe madregas habeinoni nikras avoda tama. That is called the complete avoda be'emes le'emiso shalahem, in their truest sense of the word emes. Ish kafi madregaso, each one according to his level. B'madregas habeinoni, in the madregas of Beinoni. So each one is giving it his all, 100%. That's what he's giving it. Vareini koire be'avaso shebetfilasam gabe svas emastikon le'ad. And so therefore, we are going to call the ava that they have worked on in their tefillah, we are going to say it's svas emos tikon le'ad, that the ways of emes, the language of emes, the touch of emes, the lips of emes, right, is established forever. Meaning what? Hoil b'kayach nafsha me'elokis lichsor v'la'oire b'chinas avazu li'oilam b'isgavrusa b'shas ha'tefillah midayom b'yom ayidei achana ruya l'kol nefesh. So he says like this, very amazing idea. Sometimes an ava will just come out of the clear blue sky. All of a sudden, a person just feels like turned on. He feels like, oh wow, this is, he's ready to roll. He's ready. He's inspired. That's an avoda that you cannot say is emes. Because as much as he may go to, let's say he goes to a lecture and he hears this incredible lecture, or he reads this incredible piece of Hasidus in the book or whatever, and all of a sudden he becomes really inspired, really affected by it. But it goes away right away. Why? Because in that situation, he has not made himself into a vessel for that emotion to stick with him. So, yes, it's here right now, and he's feeling very inspired, and he's feeling great about it. But it goes away very quickly. That's not what we're talking about here when we talk about the Beinoni. When we're talking about the Beinoni, what we're talking about is someone that works on himself day in, day out, day in, day out, day in, day out. Every single day in, day out. Right? That's what he's doing. He's working and working and working, and every day he meditates, and every day he learns Chassidus, and every day he's thinking about what it means, and every day he's arousing within himself. Right? Like it says about... they used to say about I saw Dean Steinsaltz wrote in his book that they say about the Kotzker Hasidim that they would prepare for hours and hours and hours, and then they would daven very quickly. But the preparation, it was all in the preparation that they were making themselves ready, working hard, that when their lips are going to finally speak, it's going to be the emes. when they're going to say Baruch She'amar V'Haya Ha'olam, right? Baruch, right? Blessed She'amar, that said V'Haya Ha'olam, and there was a world, right? The point is what? That they're going to mean it. That they're going to live with those worlds. But when when you just start and you did daven, you say Baruch She'amar V'Haya Ha'olam like that, you could even understand what it is you're saying, but you don't necessarily experience it. But these Hasidim, the Beinoni, is sitting there and he's thinking, what does it mean, Baruch She'amar V'Haya Ha'olam? And he's working on himself, day in, day out. He's working on himself to try to get to that level that he is going to feel it. That when he's speaking to Hashem, he knows that right now I'm speaking to God. And then, if that's the Abba that he is arousing within himself, and not only is he arousing himself on a Tuesday, but it's on a Tuesday and a Wednesday and a Thursday and every single day of the week. So yes, in fact, it does go away after his davening. But because he's able to bring it back every single day, day in, day out, because of his avodah, because of his work on himself, that means that it's the right thing. It's the emes. But koyach, like it says, with the power of his soul, to return and to arouse bechinas avazu, this level of love, li'olam, forever. When it's winning out over himself, meaning over his nefesh bahamis, during the moments, during the time of davening, midayom bayom, every single day. The key point here is that word, hachana, through the preparation, haru'uya lekol nefesh, which is fit for every single person, for every single soul. Kfi ercha v'madregasa, according to his level. And that's something important for everyone. The person is not judged in this situation in comparison to the tzaddik. In comparison to the tzaddik, you're right, it's a different story. Ein hachinami, it's true. But in comparison to himself, is he giving it his all? Is he working on himself to try to bring it himself every single day? Turn on the switch. Start pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing. Kihine midas emes hi midaso shel Yaakov, because the midah of emes is the midah of Yaakov Avinu, right? We know that Avram is considered like the midah of Chesed, and Yitzchak is considered like the midah of Gevura, and Yaakov is considered like the midah of emes, right? That's known as, when they would build the Mishkan, the way it worked was that the Mishkan had a pole on the top and a pole on the bottom, and they had, right, the poles on the north side, the south side, right, they're on the different sides, right, whatever, right, all the different sides that they had. And then those poles would last only that side, or only that side, or only this side. But then they had a middle pole. And the middle pole was not standing on the outside, but it was pushed through the middle. And it did a miracle. As it went through, it would go to the end of one side, and then bend, and then it would go to the other side, and then bend again, and then it'd come back out the other side. Because it lasted from all the way from the beginning to the end. That's the idea of emes. And that's the comparison to Yaakov Avinu. Because Yaakov Avinu was the idea of that he was emes. Yet everything, because as we say with Yaakov Avinu, that Abraham, right, he gave birth both to Yitzchak, but also to Yishmael, right? Yitzchak, he gave birth to Yaakov, but also Esav. But Yaakov gave birth to the 12 Shvatim, to the 12 sons, and they were all tzaddikim. And so it was a continuation that lasted forever, because all of his offspring were perfect. And that's the idea that he brings here. Kihine midas emes hi midas shel Yaakov. The midah of emes is the midah of Yaakov. Hanikra bereach hatichon. The middle bolt. Hamavriach min akatza el akatza. That's able to go from one edge to the other. Miroima milas v'madregas right ad sof called dargin. Right, it's interesting. Wherever you see in Tanya, very often whenever he's bringing from the top, he talks about from the madregos, right, until sof called dargin. So he goes from Hebrew, which is on the higher level, and then he goes down to dargin, which is Aramaic, into the lower level. Very often, whenever you see that in Tanya, that's the way he spells it out, because we're going from the highest even to the lowest. But that's the whole idea of emes. It can go from the highest level and it can go all the way down to the lowest level. B'chol ma'ila v'madrega from every single level. Mavriach toich nekudas ha'emtzai, went through the middle. Shehi nekudas v'chinas midas ha'emes shala, which is the absolute midah of emes of it. Midas emes hi nachla bli meitzarim, and the midah of emes is a nachla, is an inheritance without any limitations, without any boundaries, without any stopping it. Ve'ein lashir l'mayla adroim ha'maylas, and there's no limitation going up to the highest levels. V'kol ha'maylas v'madriga shalamata, and all the way down to the lowest levels. Heim ka'ayin l'gabe maylas v'madriga shalamayla mehen. And like we say, that even though we're talking about emes, and we're talking about the emes that a person is putting into it, he has to know that the emes that he has today, right, he needs to go and realize that tomorrow it could be a higher emes. Everything that he's put into it now is perfect for right now, if he's giving it his all right now. But tomorrow he has to demand from himself even more. And then tomorrow it's going to be a different level, and he's going to give him his all, and tomorrow it's going to be much greater than what he compares to what he has today. And then tomorrow, whatever level that is, the day after he has to put in even more. It's all about the effort. But the effort, that's what we need. It's the effort that a person puts into things. That's what we're talking about here. That's the Beinoni. The Beinoni is not perfect. The Beinoni, however, has perfect effort. That's what we're looking for. It's the effort. And then just in the bracket, like Yidua, the Yodechein, like the people that know Kabbalah, Shebechinas Roish v'moichem shel madregas ha'tachtoina, hein lamata mebechinas akvayim v'ragle madregas al-yoinos mehem kamaimer, like it says in the Gemara and Chagiga Razal ragle achayis keneged kulam. That is talking about the idea of how as high as you're going to get in one level is not going to be as high or as the lowest, right? Let's say the heels of the level above it, right? Because the objective is to go and give it your all, and then the idea is to reach the next level up, and that's the idea. That's the concept. So that's the end of the discussion over here in chapter Yud Gimel, in chapter 13, about the Beinoni and different levels of the Beinoni, and about the idea really of how, on the one hand, you have a complete control of the self, but on the other hand, the essence of the self is still stuck with the nefesh bahamias, with all of its desires. And this is what, as we said in the beginning, our first class in chapter 12, called The Real Superman, this is what we mean, that as much as he is in control of himself, he has not changed his essence. He's still the same person, still a very normal person. He's just learned how to win constantly over his animal soul. And in Mitzvah Hashem, tomorrow we'll start chapter 14. That's it for today.